Good Shabbos. In this week's Parsha, which is Behalotecha, we read that the people of Israel, having come out of Egypt into the wilderness, are complaining bitterly. Very often they seem to complain simply in order to complain. In particular, at this moment, they are complaining about food, and they claim that they remember that in Egypt, they had it really, really, really good under slavery. It is like when they were enslaved, when they were in Egypt, the only thing they wanted to do was get out of that cage. And once they got out, the only thing they wanted to do was to go back. That's human nature. But I want to read part of that section from actually Numbers chapter 11. People, and in this case, the hasafsuf, which the English here translates as the riffraff. The riffraff in their midst felt a gluttonous craving, and the Israelites wept and said, "If only we had meat to eat. We remember the fish that we used to eat for free in Egypt. The cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. Now our gullets are shriveled. There's nothing at all, nothing but this manna to look to." Now the manna was like coriander seed, and in color it was like bdellium. The people would go about and gather it, grind it between millstones, or pound it in a mortar, boil it on a pot, and make it into cakes. It tasted like rich cream. When the dew fell on the camp at night, the manna would fall upon it. Moses heard the people weeping, every clan apart, each person at the entrance of his tent. Adonai was very angry, and Moses was distressed. And Moses said to Adonai, "Why have you dealt ill with your servant?" Meaning with Moses. "Why have I not enjoyed your favor? That you have laid the burden of all this people upon me. Did I conceive all this people? Did I bear them, that you should say to me, 'Carry them in your bosom as a nurse carries an infant, to the land that you have promised on oath to their ancestors?' Where am I to get meat to give all this people, when they whine before me and say, 'Give us meat to eat'? I cannot carry all this people by myself, for it is too much for me. If you would deal this way with me, kill me rather, I beg you, and let me see no more of my wretchedness." Moses clearly is not having a good day. The responsibility is really weighing down on him. Then Adonai said to Moses, "Gather for me 70 of Israel's elders, of whom you have experience as elders and officers of the people, and bring them to the tent of meeting, and let them take their place there with you. I will come down and speak with you there, and I will draw upon the spirit that is on you and put it upon them. They shall share the burden of the people with you, and you shall not bear it alone. And say to the people, 'Purify yourselves for tomorrow, and you shall eat meat, for you have kept whining before the Lord and saying, if only we had meat to eat. Indeed, we were better off in Egypt. The Lord will give you meat, and you shall eat. And you shall eat not 1 day, not 2, not even 5 days, or 10 or 20, but a whole month, until it comes out of your nostrils and becomes loathsome to you.'" It seems God isn't having a very good day either. "For you have rejected the Lord who is among you by whining before God and saying, 'Oh, why did we ever leave Egypt?'" But Moses said, "The people who are with me number 600,000 men. Yet you say, 'I will give them enough meat to eat for a whole month.' Could enough flocks and herds be slaughtered to suffice them? Or could all the fish of the sea be gathered for them to suffice them? And the Lord answered Moses, is there a limit to the Lord's power? You shall soon see whether what I have said happens to you or not. Moses went out and reported the words of the Lord to the people. He gathered 70 of the people's elders and stationed them around the tent. Then the Lord came down in a cloud and spoke to him. The Lord drew upon the spirit that was on him and put it upon the 70 elders. And when the spirit rested upon them, they spoke in ecstasy, but did not continue. 2 men, one named Eldad and the other Medad, had remained in camp, yet the spirit rested upon them. They were among those recorded, but they had not gone out to the tent. And they spoke in ecstasy in the camp. A youth ran out and told Moses, saying, Eldad and Medad are acting the prophet in the camp. And Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' attendant from his youth, spoke up and said, my lord Moses, restrain them. But Moses said to him, are you worked up all on my account? Would that all the Lord's people were prophets, that the Lord put God's spirit upon them. Moses then re-entered the camp together with the elders of Israel. I suppose you'd have to expect coming out of Egypt, there would be a lot of stress. Everyone would be feeling it. And one of those last verses which is translated here, where it said, Joshua said, my Lord Moses restrained them. Literally, it reads something like, my Lord Moses finished them off, or put an end to them, or sometimes it gets translated, destroy them. But whether Joshua is saying, put an end to them, finish them off, kill them, destroy them, commentators are asking, how could Joshua even think that, let alone say that? How could they get that to that point? Could he really mean it? Yes, frustrations are high, but could he really mean it? And one response is given by Rashi, Rabbi Shlomo ben Yitzchak, a major Jewish commentator in the Rhineland in the 1000s. And Rashi's comment reads, Rashi's comment reads, Hatel alehem sarkei tzibor vehem kalim me'alehem. Load them up with communal responsibility, and that in itself will surely contain them. That in itself will surely destroy them. Load them up with community responsibility, and they will have no spirit left. We can read that as a prediction, or an inevitability, or a warning. A warning about taking on community responsibility. If it is a warning, then we need to make sure to take precautions to see that leaders don't get burned out or spiritually winded through communal leadership. And one way to move in that direction is to take to heart a teaching built up around the opening image in this week's Parsha. The opening image in this week's Parsha is what I think is one of the most beautiful in the Torah. It's the image of the Menorah. Not the 9-branched Hanukkah menorah, but the 7-branched menorah, which lit up the inside of the temple in Jerusalem and is itself a symbol of Judaism. The name of this Parsha, Behalotecha, literally means in your lifting, in your lifting. Because it says, the Lord spoke to Moses saying, speak to Aaron and say to them, in your lifting of the lamps, let the 7 lamps give light at the front of the menorah. And Aaron did so. He mounted the lamps at the front of the lampstand of the menorah as the Lord commanded. So in the lifting of the lights, when you kindle the menorah, this lifting, it's a strange way of putting it, but what I think it means, I need to leave here to get one thing to demonstrate. In the lifting of the lamps, you shall make sure that the 7 lights shine outward. You have the 7-branched menorah. Here, right? 7 branches. But on top of each one of them, you have a lamp, 1 lamp on top of each. And so this is an oil lamp. Perhaps I've shown it to you before. This is something I got in Israel a long time ago. And according to the documentation that comes with it, it is a couple thousand years old. And this lamp is designed, actually you pour the oil in here. There's a wick here. And it sits on a niche or on top of the menorah. So there's 7 of these on top of the menorah, shining the light that way. So you're literally lifting up the lamp. And it's a beautiful image, I think, and a beautiful image to have as a symbol of our tradition. Because there's a Hasidic teaching that says the lighting of the menorah, the work of the menorah, is in fact the life of mitzvot. When we perform mitzvot, the light of Torah shines into the world. For it says in Proverbs, the mitzvah is a lamp, a mitzvah is a lamp, and Torah is the light. In Proverbs, the mitzvah is a lamp and Torah is light. So whenever we do a mitzvah, we're lifting up a lamp and the light is shining out through us, and we become a menorah. In fact, we have another verse in Proverbs, Nishmat Adam Ner Adonai, the human soul is the lamp of God. The human soul is the lamp of God. So there's always this light shining through us, and the mitzvot become a lamp for holding that light. It is important when we perform mitzvot, acts of kindness, justice, celebration, devotion, community building, that we focus on the light that comes into our lives. We should focus on what inspires us rather on a sense of heaviness that might weigh us down. This is one reason to perform mitzvot, always with a sense of joy. Joy can buoy us up. It makes it easier to carry any burden. When I teach about mitzvot to young people training for bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah, usually young people, I try to explain to them what a life of mitzvot looks like. And I often focus on the Mishnaic teaching that they may have heard of before. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, ha'olam omed. On 3 things the world stands. Al haTorah, ve'al ha'avodah, ve'al gimilut chasadim. On Torah and on avodah and on gimilut chasadim. On Torah, teaching and learning, avodah, worship, celebration, and devotional service, and gimilut chasadim, deeds of loving kindness. A life of mitzvot should include acts of teaching and learning, acts of devotion, prayer, and celebration, and acts of kindness and service to others. This week, while explaining this in the prison, I felt I needed to put this across even more succinctly, and I simply said, study Torah, pray for shalom, do acts of kindness. Study Torah, pray for shalom, do acts of kindness. I think this in itself says a lot without making it feel overwhelming. And I would add, do it with joy. And always remember that synagogue leadership is in itself an act of spiritual leadership. Most of you here, almost all of you here, you are synagogue leaders. Synagogue leadership is an act of spiritual leadership. All of you who run the synagogue are spiritual leaders, since you are directly facilitating study of Torah, prayers for shalom, and acts of kindness. So do so with joy and awareness of how these mitzvot are lamps through which the light of Torah comes into the world. Shabbat Shalom.